handle on India's economic story today, you've got to go back, way back, to 1947. What did the economy actually look like after 2 centuries of British rule? I mean, that's the starting line, right? It's the key to understanding everything that came after.
Long before the British arrived, India was, well, an economic superstar. You had travelers like this guy, Bernier, who had just blown away. He's writing here that Bengal was richer than Egypt. And why? Because it was pumping out cottons, silks, rice, sugar. I mean, it was a prosperous, self-sufficient powerhouse, a global hub for amazing craftsmanship and trade. Just a totally different world. Fast forward 200 years, and this is what you see. A complete 180. That vibrant economy, gone. In its place, you have crushing poverty, a stagnant agricultural sector. It's a stark, stark difference. So you have to ask, what on earth happened in those 2 centuries?
Well, the source material we're looking at pulls no punches. The colonial government's economic policies, they were never ever designed to develop India. Their one and only goal was to turn India into a giant supplier of raw materials for Britain's booming factories. It was a system built from the ground up for one thing: extraction.
Okay, so to really see how this all played out, let's start with the absolute backbone of the Indian economy at the time: agriculture. This is where most people, I mean the vast majority of people, lived and worked. And just look at these numbers. It's staggering. Something like 85% of the entire population depended on farming to survive. So you can see, right, if agriculture was in trouble, it meant pretty much everyone was in trouble. So, a huge part of the problem was these land settlement systems, especially the zamindari system. And this slide really breaks down why it was such a disaster. You've got the farmers, the cultivators, doing all the hard work. Then the zamindars, who are basically landlords, come and collect the rent. But here's the kicker. The profits went straight into the zamindars' pockets, and they had absolutely zero reason to put any of that money back into the land. No investment, no improvements, nothing. The cycle was just completely broken. And as if that wasn't bad enough, farmers were also being forced to switch what they grew. Instead of food crops for their own communities, they were pushed to grow cash crops like cotton and indigo. Why? Because those were the raw materials that the textile mills back in Britain needed. So, you're looking at a situation that directly hurt India's own food security, all to feed British industry.
All right, so we've seen how agriculture was basically hollowed out to serve British factories. But what about India's own world-famous industries? I mean, Indian textiles were legendary, right? Well, the story there is, let's just say it's not a happy one.
The policy is often called deindustrialization, and it was, from Britain's perspective, a kind of brilliant 2-step move. Step 1, turn India into a massive exporter of cheap raw materials. Step 2, take those raw materials, make them into finished goods back in Britain, and then sell those expensive goods right back to the captive Indian market. It was a win-win for Britain.
And you know what supercharged this whole process? Technology. When the Suez Canal opened in 1869, it was a total game changer. It slashed the travel time between Britain and India, which gave the British even tighter, faster, and cheaper control over all the trade routes.
And this chart really shows you the end result. Britain had, for all intents and purposes, a monopoly. More than half of all of India's foreign trade was restricted to just Britain. Think about that. India couldn't just go out and find the best prices on the world market. Nope. It was locked into this completely lopsided relationship that just siphoned wealth away from India and sent it straight to Britain.
Okay, so we've talked about policies and trade charts, but these weren't just numbers in a ledger. They had a real, devastating impact on people's lives. So let's take a minute and look at the actual human cost of all this.
And the numbers, they're pretty grim. Just look at this. The overall literacy rate, less than 16%. And for women, it was even worse, down around a shocking 7%. It's pretty clear that education was just not on the agenda.
How about this one? Life expectancy was just 32 years. 32. That's not just a random number. It's a direct consequence of grinding poverty and a complete lack of any real investment in public health.
And then there's this, the infant mortality rate, an absolutely heartbreaking 218 deaths for every 1,000 births. I mean, that number tells you everything you need to know about the state of basic healthcare and nutrition.
And this photo, this is the reality behind those statistics we just saw. This isn't abstract. This was the day-to-day experience for millions of people, a life defined by extreme poverty, where even the most basic things, like a roof over your head, were a constant struggle.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. There's this common counter-argument, right? People will often say, yeah, but what about all the good stuff? Didn't the British build modern infrastructure in India? So let's dive into that.
And the big one, the one you always hear about, is the railways. They're often held up as this great gift to India. So, were they? Were they really built for the benefit of the Indian people?
And it's true. The British did introduce railways to India, starting in 1850. And it was a massive, massive undertaking, an incredible feat of engineering that absolutely transformed the subcontinent.
But, and this is the crucial part, you have to look at why they were built. And this slide lays it out perfectly. Sure, there were some side benefits for Indians, like being able to travel long distances, which helped break down some cultural barriers, but the primary motives, they were all about colonial control. The railways were built to move the army around quickly, to pull raw materials out of the heartland and get them to the ports, and to push British finished goods into every last market in the country.
So here's the bottom line. The railways were incredibly efficient at accelerating the economic drain from India. This whole idea is sometimes called the Great Indian Drain of Wealth. So while yes, there were some social benefits, the massive economic loss for the country just completely outweighed them.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. After 200 years of this system, what was the final state of the economy that a newly independent India was handed in 1947?
The challenges, they were just monumental. You're talking about a crippled agricultural sector, an industrial base that barely even existed, an infrastructure system designed for extraction, not for the public good. On top of that, you have rampant poverty and unemployment, and a foreign trade system that was basically just an extension of the British economy. That was the starting line for independent India.
And all of that leaves us with this one massive question. When you inherit a foundation that's been systematically hollowed out, how do you even begin to build a future? The answer to that question would become the story of modern India.